Welcome back to the Sports Management Podcast. This episode is sponsored by Insport Education and their new online course, The Foundation of Sport Business. With course modules delivered by sport business experts at companies like the NFL, the Football Association, and Formula E, the Foundations of Sport Business course equips you with everything you need to know to get on or accelerate your career in sport. And for you listeners, I have a great deal. With the code Sports Management Podcast 10, you will get 10% off the course price. Click the link in the description below and sign up to the course today. Now, let's kick off the episode. Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Today's guest is the Director of European Scouting at Columbus Blue Jackets. As a professional hockey player, he has played in the NHL, KHL, Sweden, Switzerland, Finland, as well as the Swedish National Team. In 2013, he retired from playing and started working as European Scout for Columbus Blue Jackets. This year, he has been one of the most talked about people in Swedish ice hockey since he stepped in as Brynäs head coach and saved them from relegation. Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, Josef Boumedienne.
Thank you.
So great to have you on. What a couple of months this has been for you.
Yeah, it was kind of a whirlwind month here lately with the assignment in Brynäs and taking over as a head coach. It was a great experience, and obviously we were able to pull it off and stay in the SHL. So all positive memories.
Just to give a backstory for the people that might not know, you stepped in together with Nils Ekman as coaches for the Swedish ice hockey team Brynäs right in the end of the season when they were playing for their survival. A great team on paper that didn't get the results they wanted, and then you stepped in right in the end of the season there. So can you just tell us how was the process that led you to become the head coach?
It was a unique situation, like you said. We had some talks throughout the spring where the club asked if I was interested to take over as the general manager. So that was just on a kind of learn to know basis. And then out of nowhere, they asked me to take over as the head coach the day of their last regular season game. And then they felt they needed to change a new face. So that was quite a surprise. It took me off guard a little bit, and then after a couple of hours of thinking about it and talking to some people, I decided to get on board. And like you said, the team had been underperforming, and then the roster was good. And so that was kind of what led up to. We had some discussions earlier, but not to be the head coach. So that caught me by surprise.
I understand that, and it's really a unique situation because neither you or Nils Ekman has any kind of deeper coaching experiences. So what made you accept this job?
Well, the man behind the idea is a professor in leadership, Gunnar Ekman, who's been working with Brynäs since November, I think. And he knows myself really well, and he knows Nils. And we've been studying in his leadership program about 7 years ago. I did it about 7 years ago. So he thought my leadership qualities was the right ones to step in that situation. And then obviously he doesn't know much about hockey or hockey coaching. So there were some other people that had knowledge of that. And for myself, I have confidence in my hockey knowledge and in my ability to lead people. So when I asked Nils and he agreed to get on board, it was kind of a no-brainer for myself. I've been involved in hockey my whole life. And like you said, I have limited experience of coaching at the pro level, but it's not much different from coaching at the junior level or at the youth level where I've been involved the last 7 to 8 years. So I had lots of confidence in our ability to lead the team. Then what the outcome would be in a stressful situation like that was almost like a coin flip, but we ended up on top.
Yeah, and no one is doubting yours or Nils Ekman's hockey knowledge. You have been playing professional hockey for so many years, but just the lack of actual coaching knowledge. Now with the result that you were bringing so good results, that kind of raises the question, how important is the actual coaching experience for a coach? Or is it what you said, like you have the leadership skills and you have the hockey skills? Is that enough?
For running the bench to coach the team during the games, I don't think you need much experience unless you've been like, you need the player experience. You need to understand what it's all about on the bench and on the ice. So that I think a lot of players could step in that role tomorrow and do a good job as far as running the bench. Then running practice and organizing the day-to-day activities, that you need more than just hockey knowledge for. But this was an isolated situation in a short time period. So I wasn't worried about the lack of experience as far as planning a season. So, I think a lot of people make it way harder than it is. You need to be able to control your emotions on the bench, or shut your emotions off, if you will, and be systematic. And I knew I had that ability as a player, and I thought I'd be able to do it on the bench, and I felt comfortable on the bench.
Would it have been a different situation for you if they asked you, for example, in the beginning of the season? Was it easier now to accept it since it was just a short time?
Yeah, probably. Then if that question would have been asked, then I would have made sure that my assistant coach would have had a broad experience in that part, because I'm a big believer in teamwork. I don't think you do everything by yourself. And then with myself and Nils, with lack of experience in that department as far as planning and organizing a full season, then I would have thought about it longer, but definitely had a more experienced, along with Nils and Hank, and a more experienced, so to speak, hockey coach beside me, for sure.
I understand. So bring us back to the first day on the job. How was it for you and Nils there, walking in, meeting the players?
Yeah, it was a good day, actually. Gunnar Ekman, like I mentioned, who's been a part of Brynäs since November. He knew the team, he knew the players, he knew their mental state, and then they have a lot of trust in Gunnar. So he was a part of the process as far as introducing us to the players and the coaches. So it was kind of a seamless transition. We had meetings, we had group meetings, we had team meeting, and we had a lot of discussions and tried to learn to know each other in quick as possible exercise. So it was fun, but it was draining as well.
I understand that. What was the game plan going in?
Well, first of all, we wanted to talk to the players and see their feelings and their thoughts of what's not necessarily what have gone wrong, more what they wanted to change and what they wanted to accomplish or do the next few weeks in the relegation game. And we had a plan, myself and Nils, how we wanted to do it, but we wanted to see what the players thought about it. And it was basically, we didn't have to change much of what we wanted to implement, and that was some defensive structure, some clear role descriptions for the players to know what to expect, to know their lines and their roles and how much ice time to expect. So basically, we had some bullet points that we put down and then let the players know, each and every one of them, what we expected. And then we wanted to tighten up the defensive game and make our goalie have a chance to be the best player on the ice each and every game.
You mentioned the ice time there, and you were an active coach there. You were matching the team and you were playing the best players for the day. But what I think stood out to me a lot was just your calmness in the situation. You were in a new role that you hadn't been in before, and you were projecting such calm, and you stood up for your players when they were criticized. What do you think was the most important thing that you contributed with to the Brynäs team?
I don't know. You really have to ask the players. I try to be a calm leader. As a player, I've been in the situations in finals and overtimes, and I also played for teams that got relegated. So it's not a new environment for myself. And also, when you're leading the games, you need to kind of be more calm and not try to motivate your players like you do when you're behind with a couple of goals. So that kind of played into why I think you guys thought I looked calm, because calmness was needed in most of the minutes we played. But yeah, try to be myself, I try to work with the players and with the other coaches. We had great help from up top, from the eye in the sky, Anton Hansson, who was communicating with Nils on the bench and helped me tremendously. I wanted to be prepared. I wanted to know exactly which center had good face-offs against which center in HV71. I wanted to know which defenseman was carrying the puck, was passing the puck well. So I'm a big believer in statistics, and I wanted to incorporate that in my decision-making, but not make it part of the player's consciousness, more for myself.
That's interesting. And I know that the strategy from Brynäs was to incorporate a lot of statistics, and Anton's role there has been very important. So When you stepped in instead of the other coaches, how was the collaboration with Anton and the other staff?
It was really good. Like I mentioned before, at other forums, they welcomed us with open arms. They were obviously devastated when their colleagues and friends got dismissed. So without Honken, Mikael Holmqvist and Anton, our job would have been almost impossible, because they welcomed us with open arms. They were really cooperative and helped us a lot as far as what they thought, their thoughts on what had gone wrong and what needed to be changed. So yeah, it was. I thought from my part, it couldn't have been any better as far as the companionship and the teamwork.
And in the end, it all worked out. Brynäs is still playing SHL next season. And what really stood out to me was that when the last game was over, it was a moment of happiness, but then actually it looked more of a relief. Was that how you felt it as well?
Yeah, probably. I'd say we were there for such a short time, but for the players and the rest of the staff, I thought it was a huge relief, because it's a dark cloud over your head for months when you're in that situation. For myself, I was excited. I was happy that we were able to complete the task that we were asked to do, but also genuinely, I felt so sorry for HV71. I don't think it was a year where any team should have been relegated. There was so many different things happening throughout the year that the teams didn't have any control over. So it was almost like rolling the dice, which teams would end up in the relegation games and which team would win. So genuinely devastated for HV71.
This episode is sponsored by Insport Education. Their courses equips you with everything you need to know to get started on or accelerate your career in sport. The course, The Foundation of Sports Business, is available now, and they also have a very interesting course coming up, Private Equity in Sport. As a listener of this podcast, you get 10% off both these courses using the code SportsManagementPodcast10. Click the link in the description below and sign up today. Your day job, so to speak, is as the director of European Scouting, and you got some time off there to help Brynäs. But if we're talking about that role a little bit, what does that role include?
It's been changed a little bit throughout the years. We have area scouts throughout Europe and North America. And then the area scouts are responsible for their area: Sweden, Finland, Russia, Czech, Switzerland, and so on, Germany. So my job has been to organize and make sure we have coverage in all the areas in Europe, and then traveling around and watching the top players basically for the draft and compare the top players from Russia to the Finnish to the Swedish and Czech and Swiss, so on. So that's basically the job description for the director of European Scouting. But the last few years, I've been focusing more on the pro scouting side, watching the professional players that are older than 22, 23, or the players drafted for the other NHL teams. So I haven't had that much to do with the draft, more scouting the pro players.
How has that been now during COVID? There are no spectators in the arenas. There are limited traveling. Have you been able to attend some games as like working personnel, or haven't you been able to go to games?
In the fall, no one was allowed at the games, or at least not scouts. And then it was in and out a little bit throughout the spring. You were allowed at some games, and then they shut it down again. But now, probably maybe the last month and a half or so, you've been allowed a limited number of scouts are allowed at each game. So I've been at live viewings lately. Yeah.
In one of the earlier episodes on this podcast, I was talking to Simon Semberg from the Alliance of European Hockey Clubs, and he has been involved with CHL, IIHF, etc. And his opinion was that European players leave too early from Europe to go to the NHL, and that he believes that it would be better for their development to stay in Europe a little bit longer before they head over to North America. What's your opinion on that statement?
Yeah, so there was a study made on that. I didn't dive deep into it, but I kind of glanced through it. And I don't think there is a right or a wrong answer. I can only speak for my organization. We leave it up to the player. If the player wants to come over, we try to accommodate them on that if we think they're ready. If they prefer to stay home in Europe for a year or two, that's what we want them to do. So I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. I mean, there are so many different circumstances, so many different organizations to sign with in the NHL, and so many different organizations to stay with in Europe. you can't say you got to stay in Europe. It all depends on what the situation is, what team, what organization, what medical team, physical team they have in place in that particular organization that the player is staying in, and vice versa, going over to North America. I mean, there'll be 32 NHL teams with minor league teams, so you can't draw them all in or put them all in one basket and say this is bad, this is good. So I think the question needs to be asked: which is the team, which is the organization, what does the player want to do?
Yeah, that's for sure. As you said, there are different circumstances and different teams. But on average, how would you say that European players stand up against North American players?
Really well, they've been doing throughout the years. I feel a little worried about the Swedish program now. I don't see enough top-end talent, special players in youth hockey. I have a lot of knowledge about the youth hockey because my sons play, so I know what the level is at. So there are a lot of good hockey players, but I miss the real special players. And I think in Stockholm, I can only speak for Stockholm hockey, I think we do a great job in suffocating the special players at a young age. Everybody needs to be the same. You're not allowed to compete. You're not allowed to count goals and so on. So I think it's going to be a huge problem in Swedish hockey if that's the route we're taking. I understand why we do it. It's not the players that doesn't want to compete. It's the crazy parents that are counting goals and then comparing kids, which is totally wrong. But I don't think it's a smart idea to suffocate and strain the talented kids that love hockey. It's going to backfire big time. It already is, I think.
You mean they're suffocating because they don't encourage their creativity on the ice, or that you said not counting goals so that you take the competitiveness out of it? Or what do you refer to?
I would say the competitiveness. I don't think people don't kind of want players to be creative, but compete that's number one thing in hockey. You got to compete. If you don't count goals, you don't know who's winning, or the kids know still. But you need standings. You need playoffs. I mean, for myself growing up, the biggest thing that I can remember was playing the finals in the Stockholm. It was called St. Eriks Cupen at the time. You played in a almost full globe arena with 10 to 12,000 people in the stands, and you're 10 to 11 and 12 years old. And I mean, that's some of the fondest memories in my whole hockey career. I don't understand why that's something negative. And even it's a team game for sure. And I'm a big advocate of team play, but taking away, for example, the individual awards in TV-pucken, it's just backwards thinking, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that, but you said it. I was going to say that it sounds like you are against that.
I mean, it's just because someone, and I know the argument that it puts too much pressure on the actual winner of the stipends, that the Lillström or the best forwards, but come on. If you can't live under pressure, hockey's probably not, at the end of the day, the thing you're going to do, or at least not at the elite NHL level. It's pressure every day.
Yeah. Recently, the under-18 World Cup just finished here. Sweden played their last game. They took third prize. Playing well, but still losing 2 games to Canada, 12-1 and 8-1. Do you think that we are seeing the result of these type of initiatives that Swedish hockey has been taking?
I wouldn't speak for the whole Swedish hockey because I don't have knowledge of what it looks like in Gothenburg or up in northern Sweden. But if it's the same as we do in Stockholm, then for sure. So, yeah.
It's actually remarkable that you can take third prize in a world championship and still lose with 11 goals to the winner, I believe. It speaks to something, and then it's impossible to pinpoint the exact reasons. There are probably many, but I would agree to your point there that the things we have mentioned would definitely be a contributing factor. We have talked about your time in Brynäs and your time with Columbus Blue Jackets, but you also have a long career as a player, both on a national team level and NHL and Swedish and Finnish hockey, etc. Could you talk a little bit about that, like your career as a player, like where you started and up until NHL?
Yeah, I grew up in southern Stockholm in Sätra. So my youth hockey club was Mälarhöjden Bredäng. It was a great place to grow up in Sätra, and then awesome organization to be a part of. I think at one point we were probably the largest club in Sweden as far as the active members. This is in the 80s, I think, 80s or early 90s. So I played there up until I was 15 years old. We had a really good team. I played with the 1 year older team. My brother, who's 4 years older than myself, played in the club as well. So I was able to practice skate basically as much as I wanted every day with any team. So that was great. And then I moved on to Huddinge when I was 15 to move on to play in their junior B team. And Huddinge at the time was one of the best talent producing clubs in Sweden. So I played there for 3 years. Moved on. I got drafted by New Jersey in '96. Moved on to Södertälje for a couple of years. We got relegated there. 98, we got relegated to the second division, so I moved on to Finland. Played in Tappara for a couple of years and then headed over to North America. And then, I was there, and then I came back to Europe during the lockout, 04-05. Played a few games in Brynäs and then finished the year in Kärpät. And then, it was was a lot of teams, a lot of countries, but myself and my family, we enjoyed every second of it. So it was a good ride for, 17 years maybe professional.
It's a long career, and you have also a Finnish citizenship, right?
Yeah, that's correct. My mom's from northern Finland, from Kemi.
Could you decide on which national team you wanted to play? I mean, Sweden and Finland are pretty equal on the quality, I would say, of ice hockey.
Yeah, I played for Sweden, and it was kind of a weird situation at one point there. I was very proud. I played for Sweden. I was the captain in the World Under-18 Championship, and then played in the World Juniors and so on. And then played a little bit with the national team, but then I was disappointed a couple of times. I didn't get picked for the World Championships when I was told I was going to get picked, and then Finland started calling and asking me to play for Finland instead because I have the citizenship and I speak Finnish, and I feel half Swedish and half Finnish. But I was always a very proud Tre Kronor member. So so Finland, they started kind of investigating if I could change, and they thought that was going to happen after the lockout year, but I guess he got turned down from what I was told in the International Hockey Federation. And then actually Sweden came back and wanted me to play in the World Championships, and I declined. I felt like this was too big of a mess. I didn't feel like it was a good idea to kind of bounce back and forth, so I kindly declined to represent Sweden in the World Championships, which I regret today. But at the time, it felt like the right decision.
Yeah. Is that your biggest regret?
For sure, biggest regret, yeah.
And then what would you say is your best memory?
I would say the championship in Kärpät 2005, the lockout year. We had a great team. The league was stacked with talent because it was the lockout year. And then first time I played in the playoffs my whole life. I always thought I was a winner, thought of myself as a winner, but tough to be a winner if you never play in the playoffs. So that was my first time getting a chance to play in the playoffs. And a lot of the players were still close friends. We keep in touch. We meet, hang out every summer together. So, yeah, that was really special. But then also my first NHL game with the Devils. And then getting a chance to play in Washington was also special. So, but if I had to pick one, that'd be the championships 2005 with Kärpät.
I see. Looking ahead now for the future, you are employed by Columbus Blue Jackets, but I know that Brynäs, they are interested. So what's coming up?
Yeah, like you said, I'm employed by the Blue Jackets, and then I've had some talks with Brynäs. But like I said before, my ultimate goal is to advance in an NHL organization. So we'll see. I don't have any news to share with you, but that's my goal. And then I'm really thankful for Brynäs asking me, and I'm still keeping that into consideration. But we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds.
Will do. And when you say that you want to advance, say, in NHL, are you thinking to take more of the coaching path or, for example, the more general manager, this type of path?
I would say more the management side of it, not necessarily the general manager. Well, maybe that could be the ultimate goal, but that's down the line in many, many years. But be more involved in the day-to-day operations in the NHL hockey team. So, yeah.
The dream is in Columbus, or is there a dream team also to represent in NHL?
No, I love the Blue Jackets. They've been so good to me, and then I have a long relationship with Jarmo. And I think looking back at my career, I bounced around quite a bit, So now I've been with the Blue Jackets for 8 years, and I loved every second of it. So I hope to be able to stay for many years to come.
I understand. Approaching the end here, is there something that I haven't mentioned that you feel is important to mention, or something else you want to add?
Nothing really. Well, we talked about the coaching experience and the experience of being a coach and so on. I think for me, people in general, or at least the media, make coaching way too important. Way too important. It's the players that play. Like, hockey is not that hard as far as system-wise. You can ask any player in the locker room and he can draw up a very good system, both offensive and defensive. So that's not very hard. Leading people, you need people skills, but don't make coaching like a hard job. It's the players that play. So they really define what the team is going to look like, their effort and their level of skill and heart. So I wanted to add that coaching is not that important.
That's a very interesting take on it. And I feel like what you and Nils did really changed people's opinion on what you said there, the importance of the experience. And maybe, as you said, the hockey knowledge and the leadership skills are what actually matters.
Yeah, that's my opinion. And I would take a debate any day with anyone who wants to debate it.
Sounds good. Something that I ask everyone also is, if you could choose the next guest on my podcast, who do you think that I should talk to?
Who would that be? Maybe Jonas Andersson, who's a good friend of mine and has a really interesting career path after he retired as a hockey player. Had a great career, played in the World Championships and then NHL and KHL. But basically, the if you want to be a professional athlete but also want to have a chance to excel after your hockey career is done, both in the academical world but also in the business world, I think Jonas is the best role model for that. And I think it's important nowadays that players not necessarily study when they play, but have an idea what they want to do once they're done. Because when you're done, it ends quick, and it's hard to stimulate yourself unless you have ideas what you want to approach. You could stay in hockey, but many other things you could do. So yeah, I think Jonas would be a great guest for you.
Yeah, definitely. And it really speaks to the purpose of this podcast also with the management side of things. And as you said, there's a lot of cases with players that have stopped and then don't really know what to do with their life. So that's definitely an interesting topic.
And I think it's going to be even tougher for players down the road because you're making more and more money. So you don't have to work the first 5 or 10 years because you can live off your savings. But just because you live off your savings, it doesn't make life easier. So I think that's going to be even more of a challenge down the road, because going back 20, 30 years, they had to start working right away. The day the careers ended, you had to go back to the normal job, so to speak. So I think it's going to be even harder and harder, even more important to have an alternate plan once your career is done.
For sure. Josef, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Sports Management Podcast.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Sports Management Podcast. Do you have thoughts or ideas about this podcast, or do you know someone that I should interview next? Please reach out to me on sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or visit my website sportsmanagementpodcast.com. If you prefer social media, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram @sportsmpodcast.